Chennedy Carter has gone from refusing to even say Caitlin Clark's name to basically pleading for a way back into the WNBA and doing it in the messiest way possible. The same player who walked out of that infamous flagrant foul with her chest puffed out and "I ain't answering no Caitlin Clark questions" is now sitting on a podcast trying to explain it all away and dragging Angel Reese right into the middle of it. If you've been following WNBA news and all the drama around Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, the Chicago Sky, and Chennedy Carter, this latest twist is wild. Carter is out of the league, playing in Mexico and China, and suddenly she's ready to clear the air. But instead of owning what she did, she's blaming team culture, the media, and even her own former teammate. So who's really at fault here? Chennedy Carter, Angel Reese, the Chicago Sky, or all of the above? Drop your thoughts in the comments because there are a lot of layers to this situation. Let's rewind to the moment everything changed for Chennedy Carter. June 1st, 2024, Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever. A game that should have just been another chapter in Caitlin Clark's rookie season turned into the play that effectively ended Carter's WNBA career. On an inbound play, away from the ball, Carter lined Caitlin up and delivered that shoulder check that everyone has seen 100 times by now. Clark hit the floor hard. Carter just turned and walked away like she'd done absolutely nothing. No arm reached out, no "my bad," nothing. Just that swaggering walk like it was a routine box out. The refs on the floor called it a common foul at first, but everyone watching knew it was more than that. The replay showed clear off-ball contact that had nothing to do with making a legitimate defensive play. The league stepped in later and upgraded it to a flagrant 1, calling it unnecessary and excessive. That should have been the moment where Carter realized, okay, I went too far, I need to own this. Instead, she doubled down. In the post-game press conference, reporters gave her a chance to explain what happened with Caitlin Clark. This was a golden opportunity to show some maturity, maybe say it was heat of the moment, apologize, something. Instead, she hit them with the line that would follow her forever. She flat out said she wasn't answering any Caitlin Clark questions, and she repeated it. That attitude, more than the foul itself, is what turned WNBA front offices against her. Teams aren't just watching the film, they're watching how players handle pressure, criticism, and responsibility. One executive basically made it clear they'd stay 10 feet away from Carter after that. The league saw someone who not only made a cheap shot on the brightest new star in women's basketball, but then acted like she was above being questioned about it. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark's response couldn't have been more different. She didn't make it personal. She didn't trash Carter. She said basketball is emotional and physical, that things like that happen, and that the best response is to stay calm, hit your free throws, and let your play do the talking. That's the kind of professionalism that WNBA wants as it grows. So on one side, you had the new face of the league handling it with composure. On the other, a talented but volatile guard shrugging off responsibility and essentially daring the league to punish her. And here's the thing, Chennedy Carter can hoop. Nobody questions that. In Chicago, she was an instant scoring spark. She was putting up career-best numbers, averaging around 17 points and shooting about 50% from the field. Pure offense. When she gets going, she's electric. But this wasn't the first time her behavior overshadowed her talent. Go back to her time with the Atlanta Dream. She was suspended in the middle of her second season because the team said she was hurting the culture. Not just missing shots or making mistakes, hurting the culture. Eventually, Atlanta had enough and moved her. Then the Los Angeles Sparks gave her a shot. Same pattern, friction, issues, benching. Another team, another set of problems. Teams kept hoping they could be the ones to fix Chennedy Carter because her scoring ability is that good. But every time, the same attitude questions popped up. By the time Chicago waived her, the league had already seen the pattern. Add that cheap shot on Caitlin Clark, add that infamous no-comment stance, and suddenly not one WNBA team was willing to offer even a training camp deal. On paper, she's a 26-year-old guard coming off a highly efficient scoring season. In reality, she's playing overseas in Mexico and China, while less talented but more reliable players are getting those WNBA spots. Fast forward to now, and Carter decides to finally talk about the Caitlin Clark incident,
not to the league, not in a formal apology, but on Neon's podcast. This is her chance to show growth, to say, I messed up, I've learned. Instead, what we got was a 1-hour masterclass in blame shifting. Carter starts by framing the whole thing as normal talk shot and physical play. She says there was jawing back and forth, maybe a little elbow, maybe some words said the play before. In her mind, that shove into Clark was just a competitive message. I'm here. She insists it wasn't personal, just part of how basketball is played. Then she really flips the narrative. Carter claims that what happened that night was influenced by the culture around her, and she points specifically to Angel Reese. She strongly implies that Reese wanted her to go at Clark, that she was basically following the energy and expectations in that Chicago locker room. Think about that, months removed from the league, on a PR platform that's supposed to help her image, and instead of taking full responsibility, she starts sliding the blame toward a former teammate who's still in the league, still building a brand, still protected by that same fan base that fuels all this attention. According to Carter, she was just responding to the moment, to the smack talk, to what was being said on the floor and on the bench. She compares it to old NBA clips where guys knock LeBron out of bounds because they're frustrated and can't stop him. Her argument is basically, this is how hoopers compete. She even tries to minimize the contact itself, calling it more of a tap, and saying if she really wanted to push someone, it would look a lot worse. In her mind, the video looks bad, but the intent wasn't malicious. She circles back over and over again to that, competitive, not personal. But here's what she doesn't address honestly. Nobody forced her to refuse those Caitlin Clark questions after the game. Nobody put those words in her mouth. That was all her. She had multiple chances in front of the microphones to calm things down. She chose defiance.
On the podcast, she shifts focus to trolls, the media, and how people are always looking for something to criticize in her game. She says the media pushed a narrative, that fans overreacted, and that she actually feeds off the hate. She leans into this villain vibe, talking about how she loves when things get loud and negative because it motivates her. And that right there is why this interview backfired so badly. WNBA decision makers watched that and saw the exact same Chennedy Carter they've been avoiding. Incredibly gifted, but still convinced she's the victim, still unwilling to clearly say, I blew it, I was wrong. As if that wasn't enough, the fallout from the podcast spilled onto social media and dragged Angel Reese right into the center of the mess. After fans picked up on Carter's comments and started saying she'd thrown Reese under the bus, Carter's online activity made it worse. She posted and liked things that a lot of people read as shots at Angel Reese. One post about how being able to consistently finish layups puts a player on a different level had people immediately connecting the dots. Given some of Reese's struggles finishing around the rim, fans took that as direct shade. Then on top of that, clips surfaced of Carter in old Sky practice footage swatting Angel's layups and celebrating. Out of context, it's just teammates competing, but in this environment, with all the tension and timing, it looked petty. It looked like she was trying to embarrass a former teammate while claiming that same teammate pushed her to go at Caitlin Clark. So now you've got two former teammates indirectly sniping at each other online. Fans choosing sides, and the whole thing turning into entertainment instead of something that gets resolved privately and professionally. To really understand why this is blown up the way it has, you have to look at what was happening inside the Chicago Sky organization. That locker room was a mess long before Chennedy Carter laid out Caitlin Clark. The foul didn't create the chaos, it exposed it. When the Sky fired head coach Teresa Weatherspoon, GM Jeff Pagliocca didn't come out and say we had a toxic culture, but he might as well have. He talked about needing better communication, better chemistry, a more unified culture. Those are the kinds of phrases teams used when they're trying not to air all the ugly details in public. Marina Mabrey's exit made things even clearer. When Mabrey was traded to the Connecticut Sun, you could hear the relief in how she talked about joining a serious, disciplined, championship-focused team. She praised Connecticut's professionalism and structure, and by doing that, she indirectly shaded Chicago. The implication was obvious. The Sky were disorganized, dramatic, and not really aligned on winning.
There were also constant conversations about how Angel Reese was being used. People pointed out late-game situations where the sky was getting blown out, but the coaching staff kept Reese on the floor with bench players, clearly hunting her double-doubles and rookie records. That kind of stat padding, especially in big losses, doesn't go unnoticed by teammates who are out there competing. Role players see that and think, so we're not trying to win, we're trying to build one person's brand. If you're a fiery guard like Chennedy Carter in that environment, and you already have a history of clashing with authority, that lack of accountability from the top is gasoline. A culture where certain players can do whatever they want, where the focus is on hype and individual numbers instead of discipline and team standards, gives people like Carter the green light to act out. So when that Indiana Fever game came around, Carter probably felt invincible. She'd been allowed to push limits before. The staff hadn't really cracked down on her. The locker room was already split. In her mind, taking a hard shot at Caitlin Clark might have felt like just another physical play, maybe even something that would earn respect in that chaotic culture. But what she didn't factor in was that the rest of the WNBA wasn't operating on Chicago's standards. The league was and is in a new era, with Caitlin Clark drawing record ratings, new sponsors, and massive mainstream attention. The WNBA simply cannot afford to let their most marketable young star become a target for cheap shots. So while Carter thought it was just basketball, the league saw a repeat offender going after their biggest draw and then refusing to show any remorse. They didn't need to issue an official lifetime ban. All they had to do was nothing. Don't sign her, don't call, let her look overseas for work. And that's exactly what happened. Despite averaging around 17.5 points per game and being one of Chicago's most efficient scorers, Chennedy Carter is not on a WNBA roster. She's 26, in her prime, playing in a Mexican league and heading to China, while teams at home sign rookies and role players with half her talent, but none of the drama. That's the message the league is sending loud and clear. Talent is not enough anymore. You can't act like the rules don't apply to you, especially when the cameras are on and the league is trying to grow. Caitlin Clark got knocked to the floor, got up, and went right back to hooping. She handled it with maturity and moved on. Chennedy Carter threw the hit, refused to talk, and now months later is still blaming culture, teammates, media, and haters, instead of simply saying, "I messed up and I've learned from it." Could she get another chance down the line? Maybe. She's absolutely good enough to be in the WNBA, but until she shows real accountability, not just in words, but in how she carries herself, front offices are going to keep their distance. No GM wants to be the one to bring in that much baggage when the league is pushing professionalism and positive visibility. Meanwhile, Angel Reese is still in the league, still racking up double-doubles, still polarizing fans, but undeniably drawing attention. Caitlin Clark is setting records, selling out arenas, and becoming the face of women's basketball. Chennedy Carter, who once looked like a future star herself, is watching all of it from overseas, jumping on podcasts and Instagram, trying to explain how it all went wrong without truly owning her part in it. So I'll throw it back to you. When you look at everything, the foul on Caitlin Clark, the post-game no questions attitude, the neon podcast, the shots at Angel Reese, the Chicago Sky culture, the stat padding, the firings, the trades, who do you think carries the most blame here? Is Chennedy Carter getting what she deserves, or is she being unfairly blackballed? Did Angel Reese contribute to the chaos, or is she just an easy target now that things have blown up? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe Chennedy Carter should get another shot in the WNBA, or has the league moved on for good? If you're into WNBA news, drama, and behind-the-scenes breakdowns like this, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on all